Good evening, folks. This is Andy Pedraza with Special Effects Academy. We're on the start of the week session in the Forex trading room for February 28th, 2021. We will be going through our usual agenda, a look at the prior week's results, our currency strength meter, fundamental announcements scheduled for this week, a look at the major pairs on the daily charts, any setups we see in progress, and a few words in conclusion. Starting with the ledgers, not much change to the long-term ledger. Well, I shouldn't say that. It's down about 4% from last week, but that's on one trade that was closed out at a loss, and we still got trades open that are moving in the right direction. So essentially a flat week, though it doesn't show that way on the actual ledger. On the intermediate, almost flat, maybe a percent off. Again, a few close trades, but nothing that really moved the needle. We do have three trades open at this point, and they are all carrying profit. On the short term, a little bit of as well as we took a loss, small losses, but it was a couple of trades, so we're slightly down from where we were. We do have one trade open on the Euro Swiss, which is moving in our favor, and presumably will continue to do so as it looks like resistance held, and there is a retrace back to lower levels of support. Notes and opportunities for improvement. It was a bouncy week. We had some late week weakness from the Australian dollar. Not really sure what's spiked that or motivated it, but it did happen on Friday. Quite a significant move from the Australian dollar. We'll have to see how the new week opens. I do see opportunities for some retrace, especially against the US dollar. So we are already trading in that direction. We have continued bullish outlook on the pound from the market in general. So it looks like everybody's convinced the pound is only going to get stronger in weeks to come. And again, we're trading it in that direction already. The USD was flat to slightly stronger throughout the week. Again, these things never move in a straight line, so we do expect zigging and zagging, even if a trend is established. So last week was not all that bad for the dollar, but it did lose ground in a couple of places. And the yen continues to be uncharacteristically and inexplicably weak. I've heard many theories out there as to why, but none of them are really convincing. It's more a matter of, as one of my favorite authors, Nicholas Taleb, says very frequently, people are fooled by randomness. Sometimes the market is just doing something and then everybody jumps in to give an explanation. I haven't found anything to convince me as yet, but we'll see what happens. Relative strength meter for the last week, we saw the dollar and the euro strengthening. We had the pound also gain in strength, but not as much. The Kiwi, a very tiny bit of strength. The Canadian, almost flat. The main loser, the Australian dollar, as I mentioned just now, followed by the Swiss and the yen to lower degrees. Fundamental announcements we have scheduled. We have only two of them. We have the Reserve Bank of Australia's interest rate decision tomorrow evening. So very likely we'll be moving our evening session to accommodate that. I don't like doing two sessions back to back unless there's a good reason for it. So that will be in the schedule communicated later by email to our subscribers. And we also have the non-farm payroll, the US labor report coming out Friday morning. That is always a tradable event. So these will be the two events we'll focus on. So a very light week, but still significant, especially as regards Friday's non-farm payroll. The Canadian labor report is not coming out this week, so that will be something for next week. With that, we move on to commodities. Oil continues making gains. It's now above $60 for the first time in a long time. We're seeing a yearly chart here on oil, and we can see it's at its highest pretty much since before the pandemic started and oil crashed. Moving on to the currencies, the euro dollar moved into euro strength for most of the week before coming down drastically on Friday and outdoing pretty much all of the gains. It ended up pretty flat for the week, pretty much where it had started out from. But still, that is a move that needs to be taken into consideration as we see how it kicks off the week. Pound dollar, same thing, but it started much earlier. It was moving very bullish through Wednesday, and then it started collapsing, actually ended up slightly lower than it began the week, but still very, very much above support and still in a nice bullish pattern. USD continues to be contrarian. We haven't seen any significant yen strength against the dollar in quite a while. Probably sometime in January was the last sustained dollar weakness there or yen strength. It's been moving to higher and higher levels of resistance. I'm still convinced there will be a turnaround at some point, but at this time, we'll probably wait until it starts moving. We do have one USD JPY trade open on the long term. And again, it is a long term trade. So we can expect to hold on to that and see where it takes us, even if it does take a few weeks or maybe even more than a month. USD Canadian, very, very bearish again until Thursday when it just undid the entire week's movement and jumped back up to the resistance of the bottom of the Ichimoku cloud. Still a very bearish chart. It hasn't broken any previous highs at all, and in fact has been making lower lows and lower highs. So we'll have to see how this new week kicks off. Most of the retrace was due to some dollar strength towards the end of the week. Again, not too sure what caused that, other than the market will do whatever the market wants to do. USD Swiss, same thing. It was dollar strength against the Swiss for most of the week, but it did hit a pause on Wednesday. And though it ended the week higher, it still went mostly sideways for the better half of the week. Aussie dollar, again, bullish pattern until Thursday when it completely crashed. And I mentioned this already. We're going to see this on all the Australian pairs. It did a significant retrace all the way back to the support of the trend line as well as the top of the Ichimoku cloud. I think there's a very high chance this will retrace back up. And indeed, I'm already trading it in that direction. But very cautiously, if it does break that trend line, all bets are off. Kiwi dollar, same thing, pretty much a twin to the Australian dollar, going up for more than half the week. And then Thursday into Friday, collapsing, breaking that trend line, and ending up right above the Ichimoku cloud. Also, keep an eye on this one to see how it kicks off the week. That does it for the dollar pairs. Aussie Canadian flat for most of the week, collapsing Thursday, Friday, also all the way back down to the top of the Ichimoku cloud. I have no strong opinion on this one. Obviously, it was the Australian dollars collapsing that made the move, but also I think the Canadian dollar is overdue for a little bit of strength, but against the Aussie, I'm not too sure it's going to get any traction. We'll see. Again, the beginning of the week is going to be very telling for most of these pairs. Euro Swiss broke out throughout the week, quite a significant move for this pair, broke the upper level of resistance and then failed to go far above that. Indeed, started retracing. We took that as a selling opportunity. We're trying to trade it back down to the previous mean, at least to the top of the Ichimoku cloud, and perhaps even beyond to the bottom of the previous sideways channel. Stay tuned to see how that evolves. Euro pound also breaking the final level of support at the bottom and then just collapsing, and the pound moving into weakness for Thursday, Friday, with a little bit of a move in the opposite direction on Friday, but still ending up above, significantly above the most recent low, which is a major low that it established on Wednesday. That said, this is still a very bearish chart. It's pointing down and retraces are to be expected. Another one to be monitoring as the week kicks off to see what it plans on doing. Euro JPY breaking out of the top level of resistance, testing it as support and bouncing straight up. Ended Friday with a bit of a retrace, but not a significant one. Still ended the week way higher than where it started. Euro Canadian hitting the bottom of its sideways channel and breaking out for quite a few days before moving back into the channel Wednesday into Friday. We were trying to trade this one back to the top. It did take us out when it broke support. We'll have to see if we want to get back into this one. Again, keep a close eye on what it is doing. This is still a sideways play, no matter how you look at it, until it does break either the top or the bottom and keeps going. For now, it's still inside the channel. Pound JPY breaking the top at long last. This was a long predicted move, but Thursday into Friday went down and ended up below that top level yet again. Still trying to go up on Friday. You can see that long wick. It's still in a very nice bullish pattern. And this is another trade that we might jump back into at any point. I did take a good chunk of profit out of the pound JPY in the past couple of weeks, maybe, yeah, 2 weeks ago. So I'm still looking at this one very closely to see if it gives us a good reentry. Aussie JPY breaking the top as well. The Australian weakness Thursday into Friday killed that move, and it ended up 2 levels of support below that high. So again, keep a close eye on this one to see what's going to be happening. It still has a ways to go if it keeps going down before it hits support of the top of the cloud or the outer trend line. But still, I think there's a good chance this one will retrace back up before it goes any further down. I don't think long term the Australian can keep up this strength play, but I don't think it's played out totally yet. Euro New Zealand also breaking the bottom. We took some profit on this one on Wednesday or Thursday, rather, when it started retracing. But Thursday into Friday was a very strong retrace. It is now 2 levels of support above its most recent and significant low. And it's still below the trend line, however. So a decidedly bearish chart. And again, the beginning of the week will tell us what we can expect. And it might be a very good trade either way, depending which way it either bounces or breaks. Pound Canadian also breaking the top very early in the week, maybe Wednesday. Yes, Wednesday. So Tuesday into Wednesday, it completely broke out, hit the trend line from way back, and then just collapsed. With Friday, it was trying to come back. We did enter a trade at some point, which is now carrying profit as it bounced off that trend line. So we'll see if it does continue heading up and gives us a nice bit of change. Pound Swiss also breaking out of multiple levels of resistance, peaking on Wednesday and then starting to come down, but ending up well above both the beginning of the week as well as support. So still a nicely bullish chart, and I do expect it to keep going up, but again, be cautious and wait for the move to actually begin. Pound Aussie, after just moving down, almost crossing the Ichimoku cloud Thursday into Friday, so that huge move back up. And again, due mostly to Australian weakness, not the pound strength, but it is starting to head back to that trend line, which we were following. We did get taken out of a trade on one of the accounts on this pair. Again, I have my stop losses where I have them so that we control risk and we are never at risk of being wiped out. So sometimes this will happen. We have a good trade that will move in our favor, but we're no longer in it. But that keeps us alive to look for better and better trades as we go along. Right now, I am very cautiously looking at the chart to see if we have another opportunity to trade it up or trade it down. I don't care, whichever way it starts moving as the week kicks off. That's it for the chart setups we see in progress. Of course, the pound. The pound is at a 3-year high and is still rising. Definitely a trend has been established on the pound. You heard me say it at the beginning of the call. We have a lot of positive sentiment out of the market for the pound right now. And until that changes, I would expect it to be making higher highs. The dollar pairs. The dollar took a breather last week and even moved slightly into strength against some currencies, but I still expect bearishness for the long term. The Australian pairs, we saw that in multiple charts. It took a hit late last week. It might be a good bullish opportunity to trade the retrace. And indeed, I'm already doing that against the dollar. And the yen might be another really good one, as mentioned, but be very cautious. At some point, I expect the Australian to give up a good chunk of its most recent gains, and we don't want to be on the wrong side of that. The yen, of course, still weak. Don't know why, it just is. So we'll continue monitoring until that changes. And the Canadian starting to move bullish, but in fits and starts. So be very careful as the volatility with the Canadian pairs appears to be very high. Also, we don't have a labor report out of Canada this week. It's the second week of the month this time around, so we should not have too much of a circus with the Canadian, but you never know. So just keep a close eye on that. That's it, other than my conclusion here, and that is on the COVID recovery. As vaccination efforts advance, you should expect some of the economies to strengthen faster than others. This is regardless of the vaccines, all of them's effectiveness. Remember, it's never about the reality of something, it's always about the perception. The market perception always rules. As the saying goes, buy the rumor, sell the news. The UK is looking very good right now. The US isn't. And this is basically because the Biden administration's policies are not being well received. Again, I'm not here to judge. I'm not going to say whether the administration's policies are good or bad, but the perception right now is very poor. Some very good trends are underway. It is time to pick sides. Right now is the time for fundamental trading. Decide which currencies you think are going to come out winners and start trading them in that direction. That's all I'll say about it. Of course, I will do it myself. And those of you taking advantage of our copy trader will get to do that with us. That's going to be it for me this opening session. Any comments or questions from anyone? Okay, folks, then thank you very much. We will be back tomorrow again for the subscribers, and I'll be sending this out via email. We will very likely have a much later start tomorrow to accommodate that Australian interest rate decision. See you guys then. Have a great rest of a weekend.